Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For the Poor by Ka Intuitive. My name is Kai. I am your host, and I am very excited to jump into today's reading, this week's reading. Today is Thursday, 1/22/26. We just got done actually with a new moon in Capricorn on Sunday, the 18th. If you are listening at the time of posting, or around that time, this time, that time. I hope that Capricorn moon went well for you. Let me know how it went. What did we set intention for? Did you release? What were we doing? Were you napping? Were you just organizing yourselves and getting ready? I know for myself, big, word that kept coming up and theme that kept following, even up until I want to say Monday or Tuesday, was the word legacy, right? And I was talking a lot about that on my TikTok. If you are not following me on TikTok, you should. I post way more frequently there than anywhere else. I do want to try to get back into the Substack vibe. It's just been kind of hard figuring out what works best, right? Because we're all in this world together trying to figure out how we can be our most authentic selves and show up. And, really, if we're going to do the work, put the work into our craft, then we want to make sure that it's, being delivered fully and at its full level robustness, if that's a word. So I want to make sure that I'm at least nurturing and tending to at least one of my plants, right? Which this would be my podcast and then / TikTok, right? So, anyway, yeah. So that was the word, right? That was the word for Capricorn new moon, was legacy. So I'm curious to see if anybody else had any words come up or any themes or anything like that of that nature. Let me know. That's always, honestly, that's why I do this. It's to connect, right? So let's just jump in to the reading. I'm doing something different. Usually, if you're new here, I will shuffle live and pull as we go, and that's basically the show. Today, I decided to shuffle off mic, shuffle off the microphone, and do a little bit of journaling. And I gotta say, today's message is really weird. It's weird. I don't typically have messages come through like this and that might be because normally I'm not really pulling for the collective. I'm pulling for myself. And so there isn't always this bigger, more global energy that comes through. So of course, when I'm pulling these cards, it's for the collective. It's not for any particular thing. It's really just me asking, the powers that be, whatever, you call them by name is your business. But for me, it's source, right? Spirit, the divine. And I ask, what do we need to know as a collective? And I'm a part of that collective. It's not, what do they need to know? And I'm the big fat messenger. No, I'm just, I am the big fat messenger, but I'm not separate from this message applies to me as well. So this message itself was very, very, very global. I even pulled the world card at the very end and was like, oh my gosh, Ayales, because we are here, we are doing it. So jumping in, stick with me, please bear with me. Because let me tell you, look, I don't always pull from my Pleiadian oracle, but when I do, it is because there is a bigger message that is overarching. It's overreaching humanity and going past that. It's really going past, you have the globe and then you have space, and it's extra outer space. There's a word for that. You have deep space, right? And that's kind of when I feel I need to pull from my oracles, my Pleiadian oracles specifically, I am okay, we're going into deep space now. Meaning in a very more practical way, we're getting fucking weird. We're going to be getting weird. Okay. So if you don't subscribe to aliens or, other, extraterrestrials or, that type of thing, this message may be kind of uncomfortable for you. If you do, if you are an Aquarius like me, or just someone who's down and totally convinced that there is life in other places than just this one, this message, man, you're going to be like, wow. Hopefully it's 1:33 on the clock. That matters. I'm going to start. Okay. So looking at my notes and moving my tea, I asked Spirit simply, what do we need to know? What's coming through right now at on the horizon? What are we looking at? Let's get clear. Let's get deep. And the conversation, I used more oracle decks than tarot. However, I started with my oracle decks. Okay. And, the specific one that I started with was my, Les Vampires. And I know I'm saying that wrong. It's by Lucy Cavendish, and it's an oracle deck of vampires. Okay. The energy from these cards are I typically use these cards when I'm doing shadow work and everything. And I felt very called to kind of talk about the underbelly, the underworld, in this reading, or I felt like at least like that's what needed my attention, which is why I gravitated towards darker, if you will. And I only use that word because like what else, right? Just like that shadowier underbelly, like I said, so I shuffled, and what came through was first, and I'm sorry, but disease. Ew. And I was like, why? What is this? Why is this the first thing? Disease, passing things down, germs, contact, contraction. What's the other word? I didn't get to write it down, but I even like stopped in my, deck and was like, my deck shuffling and was like, what the fuck word is that? But just like, contamination. Oh, finally I said it. Yes. Contamination. Right. It also was like the word hereditary kept coming up, and, just this like passing down of disease and disorder. Right. And I asked Spirit, like, what are we doing here? Are we sure? Like, this is what is the conversation? Are we sure? And Spirit led me to see in one of these cards that there's a little rat sitting on one of the little vampire's laps, and it's very tucked away in the corner. It's not where my eye first went. And I saw that rat, and immediately it reminded me of like the plagues in London. Right. And I started thinking about that. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And as I kind of started sitting with the idea and that energy, I'm kind of putting myself physically in a spiritual sense in London during the plague, sitting on the cobblestone street in the dark, what I imagine, right? I've only ever seen it in movies. I don't know. But, sitting in the cobblestone streets, it's raining, it's dark out, everybody's sick, everybody's coughing, nobody's well, there is no hope, right? It is giving hopeless, like, I think the word's degradation. Bear with me, y'all. It gets better. Okay, just stick in there. So I'm like, why are you showing me this? And I immediately started to pray, okay? And I started to call in, Archangel Michael, and just kind of like a little shield of protection, because it was feeling very like dark, right? Like, and I will use that word because that's really what it was. It was just like this dark, lower vibrational, very sticky. And Spirit started kind of giving me information about like what it looks like when society has zero knowledge of something, right? So when knowledge is being withheld from the masses, when things are intentionally being covered up, and what it can lead to, the type of imbalance that occurs when wisdom and knowledge and things are not passed down. And in this case with the plague, what came up for me was the people not realizing like you can't you can't bring barn animals into your home. You can't, you have to have a good trash system in order to, not attract these pests and these things that bring in, disease. You have to, such and such, so on and so forth, right? That was just a line of thought there, right? That was a string of consciousness there, was the need to know how to handle what it is that you're looking at or what it is that you're doing. Otherwise it can really open up a harmful trigger point where it kind of collapses everything in its path. Right. So it wasn't just knowledge being withheld. It was also knowledge not being passed down. It was like the inability to pass something down if you don't have it, right? If you don't have that knowledge already to you or given or anything. So as I sat with the idea now of the hoarding of knowledge, okay, the conversation started to turn into more of, to have somebody that now when you're hoarding something, that means that there's an action. Okay. Like there's an action, something is being held, like withheld, right? So when you're hoarding knowledge, hoarding information, that begins to take the form of predatory behavior, right? There's a reason why you don't want, and I say you, not you, but you, general you, the powers that be, the they, right? Those that are in, certain spaces in our, society. It starts to translate into predatory behavior. And as I wrote that, the word became harvesting, which then I prayed even more. Then I really was like, okay, now pause. And so I grabbed my little chimes. I readjusted my energy, right? Cause I'm like, okay, I don't like that. I don't like the word harvest. Okay. I don't like that. And as I wrote that word, as I prayed and everything, my eyes went to the other card or the same card with the rat on it that I didn't notice. I also didn't notice that behind in the background of these girls, these vampires, there is a portrait of Jesus on the cross. Okay. And his mother looking up at him, and you can't see all of Jesus. You just see his hands, and you see his one hand and his, and the cross, like the arm of the cross. And then you really can see Mary, right? Looking up at him. Okay. Which I was like, okay, interesting. That felt more like a confirmation that the prayers were heard and things like that too. But it made me kind of turn back around and say, okay, so we're really dealing with the shift of history. We're dealing with when big things happen, right? Big events happen. The plague in London, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, right? It shifts the narrative. We're dealing with narrative shifts and, like things that will change or influence the trajectory of humanity. So like I said, we're getting big. Okay. This is big. This is not like, oh, today for your life, here you go. Like it is, we will get there, right? This message will end up in the medicine. What do we do about it? Right? Right now, I'm really just telling you, this is what I saw. This is what came through. And we're going to go from there. Right? I'm not going to leave you without medicine. Never. And I'm never going to, I'm not going to also act like I'm saying something you don't already know, feel, sense, see yourself. Okay. I already know. I already know that you probably had things come to your mind already about the hoarding of information and yaka, all that. Okay. That is real. And we're living those times. Okay. This is just the conversation about that from higher spaces. Okay. Try to look at it like that. So immediately, because I realized, okay, we're talking about the shift of humanity here. We're talking about historical shifts that happened, that were influenced, whether, here comes the woo-woo, whether by humans or not, I don't know. Let me talk about that. Ooh, that's weird. We're getting so Aquarian, but it's Aquarius season. So woo, 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 woo. Let's go for it. As we were talking about the shifts of humanity, I was like, okay, I feel very pulled, right? Very, very pulled to talking to the Pleiadian Oracle and consorting that. So I sat with that deck and just really asked, like, what are we talking about when we say harvest? I don't like that. It sounds real draconian. Okay. It sounded very draconian. I don't like it. It's gross. It's dark. It's filth. It's muck. Get off, right? What are we talking about here? Harvesting. Okay. The card that flew out of the deck was the fifth dimensional access. Highlight on the word access for me, right? The card at the bottom of that deck was telepathy. Okay. This to me immediately triggered the conversation of, it's 1:44 on the clock, the conversation of points. Hold, stick with me. Points. Okay. Temples, symbols, everything that ever mattered, a steeple, right? Everything is always pushed upward, right? Built upward. They have this a point at the top that signifies a conduit, right? A means to connect to what is above, right? I still need to sit with that all by itself. Just as I said it, I was like, okay, there's more there. I will sit with it. Let me make a note of that actually, y'all, because as above, so below did come through later on in my reading, but right now it still keeps coming up a lot. The point, the conduit. I don't know if you're the beacon. I don't know if that's what we're talking about here is like, how do we create a bunch of little beacons, right? Okay. Hi. Yeah, maybe that's what we're talking about. Okay. That feels good. Excuse me while I channel and have these weird little moments. I don't even know if this should be a podcast, honestly. I'm like, should this be YouTube or a TikTok? I don't know. We're going on this platform, but boo, let me know. What would be better? I don't know. Anyway, fifth dimensional access, okay? Telepathy, spiritual gifts. So we're talking about the word access, right? What we give access to, what has access to us, what needs access to us in order to create like these man-made temples, if you will. And how do we shed all of that away in order to step into what is actually authentic, right? For humanity, what it was intended for, what its intended use was for. Spirit, as I say that, is showing me trees, because trees are the natural energy that trees and plants, honey. Those are the natural things that are upright and stand tall and reach for heaven, that reach for the stars, that reach for the sky, that reach for, higher knowing, wisdom, and that are extremely rooted within the ground. So spirit, dead ass, is like, be a tree. Thank you. Thank you for coming to this podcast. You need to be a tree. You need to model yourselves as trees and nothing else, nothing more. You guys are trees now. Anyway, as I was writing down the fifth dimensional access and kind of having a conversation, which actually is the number 8 card in the deck, or actually it's number 17, but it adds to 8. So that immediately gave me this like push and pull, this flushing. The word flushing kind of came through and what that looked like. And Spirit showed me in that moment the image of one of my cards that I have that is in a totally different deck. It's my Mermaid Tarot. And it's the Death card that came through. And what's depicted in that is human beings on a boat at the top of the water, because what do boats do? And they're reaching into the ocean, and you can see the ocean, you can see the depths underneath the surface, and they're reaching into the sick ocean that has oil and all types of nasty stuff. And they're literally reaching in and saving what they can by, washing them off and washing off the sea life and rehabilitating them, right? there is something there on that, y'all. Let me just tell you that. That felt when Spirit showed me that, it felt very much like that the people in the boat signify not just, the obvious of Spirit moving in and rescuing what can be rescued, but moving through those who have already answered the call to then go back into the boat and to weather the storm and, drop anchor and begin the work. Begin the work of reaching to those who are ready to be reached and cleaning them off and rehabilitating them and giving them the medicine and what it is that they need in order to stand strong in themselves to be released back, right? But it's not even like those little creatures can immediately be released, right? Now we got to get them out of there. Then we got to clean it. And then that's when Spirit started showing me a net, just a big net, just coming through and getting all of the gunk and gross out of the ocean, right? And that can be taken very literal. Like, we do need to be taking care of our oceans, right? But also, like, in our communities and with each other, in our family units, right? Obviously, we all know that not everybody can come with us. We've heard this before, and we know this to be true. We've had this experience by now. By now, you have had this experience. If this message is resonating, honey, you have had this experience. So it's nothing new. One thing I will share too, just because my eye went to it and I wrote it down because I thought it was cute, was the Dawn commercials with the little ducklings getting washed in the Dawn soap. I just thought that was real cute, and I want to share that. It made me like, oh. But then I was like, okay, hold on though. Like, if we're going to take it now off of the card and into our reality, because that's literally happening, where they're rescuing little animals and washing them off. It made me wonder if there's going to actually be a spill, right? An oil spill or a chemical spill, something that'll infect our water. That did come through. And so that makes me a little uncomfy. So if you do see anything in the news or anything, share that with me, so that I also, validate that, right? Validate that that's what I saw. But also, like, of course, I take things not so literally when I'm channeling and when I'm speaking with Spirit. It's not always so literal. It's very much symbolic. So I don't always know. I haven't discerned yet. I haven't learned how to discern yet if this is actually like a very real thing that we're talking about that is in the physical, in a global sense, right? In a collective sense. For myself, I can discern it, but like for a global, there's this feeling of, well, fuck, I don't want to say that. That's fucking crazy to say, like that's insane, right? I might think that for myself, but that ain't their business. I don't want people to think I'm a cuckoo. I am a cuckoo though. Yeah, I am. That's what we're doing here. So you can't, not be cuckoo anymore. Like you got to be a little cuckoo in order to fucking like, it's cuckoo right now to be authentic. Like, let's be for real. So anyway, moving on, I had asked Spirit, I was like, okay, we got oil slicks and spills. We got chickens dying and shit. What are we? Why? Why are you telling me this? Like, what do you want? Right? Like, what are you telling me? We're talking about fifth dimensional access. We're talking about, draconian versus, all the others. Lyrians, just that word popped up in my head. And I didn't work with the Lyrians. I was working with Pleiadians, but Lyrians came through. So I don't know if whoever's listening to this, that resonates, or if they have an additional message, you can go ahead and look into it yourself. But I don't know. I asked Spirit, I'm like, yo, like why? What do we talk about here? What is the medicine? What do we do about this? And Spirit immediately said, and I say said, honey, they cannot hoard what they do not have. They cannot, and I don't know who they is, baby, but they cannot hoard what they do not have. And then Spirit started having the conversation with me about community. Okay? About community, life connection, community plus life connection. I'm sorry. Community equals life. Connection equals healing. I can't read my own writing. I apologize. Community equals life. Okay? Connection equals healing. And notice there's difference, right? Community, it wasn't community and life. They all equaled the same shit. No, community is life. That is your life force, is community, knowing where you come from, knowing where you're going as a community, taking care of each other, right? That is the healing. We heal when we care for each other. And let me tell you something. I'm not Christian, okay? But I had a lot of church experiences. At one point I was Christian, but more than that, before I ever really was Christian, because I think that children shouldn't have to identify. So for myself as a kid, you know, I was being taken to all these spaces, but like, whatever. One thing that I remember though, from a pastor at a church, was he was talking about the difference between hell and heaven. Okay. And this is coming up again. So I really want to share this, and I really want you to hear what I'm saying. The difference between heaven and hell. And it's not the atmosphere as far as like, it's soft in heaven and hot in hell. You know what I'm saying? The devil's there, God's not, you know, whatever. It's the way that the people of these spaces act. And the example he gave was, sorry. And you know what? And honestly, I don't even know if I heard this sermon or if it was like a TV show. I really don't know. But something somewhere launched into my brain as a child. Anyway, and it stuck with me. In hell, in heaven and hell, they're all seated, whoever's there, and at a big long table, and they are given meals. Okay. They are given a feast. In fact, not even just meals, just a feast, just food all over, both in heaven and hell. Okay. They all have the same thing. They're all given these stacks, these plates stacked high of food. And however, the silverware for both of these folks was too short to reach. It was too short to reach the plates, right? The silverware was too short. In hell, they complained and, you know, were upset, and like, that's all they did. They just threw their forks down. This is fucking stupid. You know, like, what kind of shit is this? I can't believe this. We gotta fucking, you know, we gotta make a really big deal about this. We gotta write a letter, whatever, right? They were real upset, real hungry and angry, right? Everybody was hungry. Everybody was angry. The atmosphere stayed just like that. Angry, hungry, tired, whatever. In heaven, though they had the same circumstances as those in hell, instead of complaining, they fed each other. So they were helping each other get the plates down, bringing them closer to each other. They looked after each other, right? There were no complaints. It was, okay, how do we figure this out for the better of each other, so everybody can eat, so everybody can be fed. And that story stuck with me all my life. I'll be 34 next month. You know, and I don't even remember when I heard it, who I heard it from, where I heard it, but I remember the lesson behind it. I was like, okay, all right. Yeah. So community is everything. Community is everything. Looking out for each other is everything. That is God. That is God. You know, and I say God not in a Christian sense, but God as in an I am sense. God as in a everything. God as in all inclusive. Because that's what was in heaven. Okay. I didn't hear anything about how they identified. I heard that their forks were too short, and that all at the table decided unanimously to take care of each other regardless of the shortcoming. That's what I heard as a child. And that's what I'm saying now. So spirit, when we talked about, we, as in my team, my spirit team, whoop, whoop, and myself, spirit, let me know. Community equals life. You will all be fed. Connection equals healing. We get to hold the space for each other. We get to clear the wounds of our brothers and sisters. They cannot hoard what they do not have. So whatever this darker energy, entity, thing, draconian, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, it does not have those things. It does not have community, and it does not, which means it does not have community and it does not have connection. Okay. Spirit also led me to understanding that the best medicine is to do the opposite of what you're seeing right now, right? So if you're seeing disengagement, engage. If you're seeing disorder, order. If you are seeing, shouting and yelling, stay calm and communicate, right? So on and so forth. Spirit also wanted to let us know that we're very supported by the ancient ones. And the ancient ones is not a being. It's by the sky, by the moon, by the stars, by the earth herself, by the ocean, by all the animals, by everything that has been here, not even the animals, but everything that has been here before us, and everything that'll continue to be here long after us. Okay? Huge. To close, and I'm already at the 30-minute mark, damn it. But to close, I asked Spirit, what can we anchor into as a collective? Okay. Now that we see that the medicine is connection, the medicine is community, right? What can we anchor into that gets us there, right? Because, speed running community and connection is scary for people that are coming out of, COVID and, Trump and, all types of shit going on. It's scary out there. It's scary. And I acknowledge that fully. It's scary to stand up and be seen right now, especially for people that are non-white. Okay. So I definitely want to call that out, and in any other marginalized communities, right? But especially non-whites, specifically Mexicans and Black people. Yeah. Sending extra protection to you guys, to those groups of people right now. So I asked, what can we anchor into, right? Horse came through as mental and spiritual power. So tapping into this year alone is a horse year. Okay. So I feel that I didn't sit with it too long, but I feel that if you were to sit with your own intentions that you set for this year, and maybe look at the idea of doing opposite, coupled with what feels right in your soul after this message, I think that you'll uncover more answers or more clarity of how to work with the horse energy, or sitting with source yourself, right? And understanding like what that means for you. These are all very personal. Okay. The owl came through, which came through as ancestral. It would be very important right now, more than any other time ever, to sit with your ancestors. If you have not done that, you need to do that. Understanding where you come from, understanding the spiritual aspect of your life through them, through even if it's harm, right? Understanding those things help build your sense of identity and your sense of responsibility to the way that things go from here on out, right? What you show up with. You won't know until you sit with it, right? You won't know what you're bringing to the table until you actually uncover what's going on in your ancestral line. I believe it's pronounced Wagachun or Wagachun, which is the two-faced tree. That is the third thing. And that's actually the hanged man. It's the two-faced tree. And what came through was honoring duality, accepting duality as a part of life and death, cycles, sitting with the duality within yourself. Okay. And the last one was badger. And what came through for badger as an anchor was taking only what you actually need, being very resourceful, cunning, skillful, and methodical and intentional about your words, the way you move, the way you get dressed, the way you shop, the way you cook, the way you clean, the way that you communicate, the way that you discipline, all of it. Intentionality. Okay? Those are your anchors. Okay? So I will leave y'all with this, with that message, with that medicine. Some of the plant magic that came through when I pulled for each one of these was ginseng, yarrow. I'm going to go ahead and take notes on that. Ginseng, yarrow, sage, lemon balm, rhodiola, which is RHODIOLA, reishi, and milk thistle. Okay. So y'all can sit with those plant medicines. Oh, I missed one. And lavender. Lavender. And one more thing. I cannot push it enough. Ancestral veneration. That was so strong. So strong. And ancestral veneration also coupled with inner child work. Okay? Because that's going to bring the joy and the light and the bliss and the softness, right? That we really all need. Okay? So with that, you guys, that's all I have for you today. I really hope that this message resonates with who it's meant to resonate with. It reaches who it's meant to reach. I am but an oak, and those who need my shade come forth and sit beneath it. Okay? It is my only intention to provide insight. That's all. Insight. All I can do is speak the truth that came to me. And, if it unlocks places within yourself to do more digging, then I have done my job for the day, right? So this is what I can bring our community. This is what I can bring, our society, right? What can you bring? What spiritual gifts are you kind of sitting on or pushing away because it's, taboo, or it's this, that, the other, right? Harming none always, and always elevating, source energy and I'm not a love and light person, but I definitely want our intentions to be that which brings harmony and peace, right? I think that we kind of need that. But if you're a chaos worker, hey, throw that chaos in a circle, do what you got to do, to protect. But all right, you guys, thank you so much for listening. And I will absolutely catch you on my next one. I think that would be Thursday, maybe the 28th. I don't know. Let's see. The 26th is Tuesday. The 27th would be Wednesday. So yeah, the 28th. All right, you guys, see you later. Bye.